On your screens are visuals from a heartbreaking tragedy that unfolded in Karnataka early on Christmas morning. A fuel tanker suddenly jumped a divider along National Highway 48, colliding head-on with a sleeper bus, triggering a massive inferno. At least 5 people are confirmed to have died in this accident, with many others left injured. You're watching NewsX Deep Dive. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. Today we're taking a close look at what caused the devastating collision in Karnataka and what unfolded following this accident. Well, according to police and eyewitness accounts, the accident occurred between sometime around 3 a.m. on December 25th near Gorlathu Cross in Hiriyur Taluk when a heavy truck jumped the central divider and plowed into the oncoming bus. The impact was catastrophic. Within minutes, the bus was engulfed in flames, trapping sleeping passengers inside. Many were still asleep at the time of the crash, a factor that likely contributed to how quickly the situation turned lethal. Well, following the completion of rescue operations and a final head count of the passengers, the Chitradurga police have confirmed the number of deceased as 5 persons. The death toll includes 4 passengers aboard the sleeper bus and the driver of the container truck involved in the crash. Now, here's how the tragedy unfolded. Well, investigation on the part of the tanker driver who jumped the central divider, veering out of its lane towards the bus. A private sleeper bus operated by Seabird Travels was travelling along the highway from Bengaluru to Shivamogga. Around 29 passengers were on board against a seating capacity of 32. Of them, 25 were from Gokarna, 2 from Kumta and 2 from Shivamogga. The resulting head-on collision resulted in a massive inferno that quickly engulfed the vehicle. Flames spread rapidly through the sleeper coach, trapping passengers inside. The truck specifically struck the bus near its fuel tank, intensifying the blaze. The force of the collision and the impact on the bus fuel tank caused fuel to leak and ignite. The bus driver, who managed to escape, later stated that he saw the truck approaching and tried to control the vehicle but failed. Due to the late hour, many passengers were asleep at the time and had very little time to react. Some managed to break windows or escape before the fire spread fully, but many were trapped inside the burning vehicle. Reports also suggest the bus had a singular and common entry and exit point, making escape difficult. The intensity of the blaze resulted in the bus being extremely gutted. Local emergency services were alerted as they rushed to the spot to battle the blaze and assist the victims. Eyewitness accounts capture the horror of the tragedy. The bus driver recounted how he was driving at a moderate speed when he suddenly saw the truck heading straight towards them from the opposite direction. Another passenger stated the bus left at 11:30 p.m. with the tragedy unfolding sometime between 2 to 3 a.m. He stated he broke the glass and managed to escape. However, many passengers were screaming and attempting to escape via the doors and windows, but they had been compromised by the fire. Meanwhile, IGP Dr. B.R. Ravikante Gowda also issued a statement on this incident. Well, preliminary probe suggests negligence on parts of the lorry driver, who had been identified as Kuldeep, a native of Uttar Pradesh, who died in the accident. Chitradurga police stated the driver may have fallen asleep behind the wheel. The truck belonged to a Haryana-based transport firm and was carrying beverages from Supa, Maharashtra to Nelamangala near Bengaluru. So far, the investigation suggests that Kuldeep may have dozed off, lost control of the vehicle and crossed over the road divider. Local people called up the police, fire station and the ambulance. Fire tenders from Sira, Hiriyur and Chitradurga reached the spot and put out the fire. However, fire tenders had difficulty reaching the spot as vehicles had piled up on the busy national highway following the accident. Thousands of people were on their way to their native places to spend the year-end Christmas holidays. The highway, which connects Karnataka to Pune in Maharashtra, is especially busy during this time of year. This tragedy underscores a persistent danger on India's highways. High-impact collisions involving heavy vehicles and passenger buses. National highways continue to see a high incidence of fatal crashes, fatigue and inadequate enforcement of safety standards. As Karnataka mourns today, the focus now shifts to care for the injured, support for bereaved families and a fuller investigation into the causes of the crash. 3 injured persons may have been admitted to the Mahabodhi burns ward at Victoria Hospital in Bengaluru, with one said to be in critical condition. 24-year-old Manjunath, a resident of Bengaluru, sustained about 30% burns ranging from superficial to deep in the accident and has been admitted to the intensive care unit. The doctor said he has suffered injuries due to smoke inhalation in addition to burns on his back, lower limbs, hands and the posterior part. Two other injured passengers, 22-year-olds Devika and Kirtan, sustained minor burns. Devika suffered about 3% accidental thermal burns, while Kirtan sustained around 5% burns. Both are said to be stable. Sanjay Sahai, former ADGP Karnataka, is joining us now on the broadcast. Sanjay Sahai, what do you believe prima facie was the cause of this accident?
See, prima facie, the cause of this accident is what has been done by the lorry driver, but that is not the critical issue. The critical issue is that whenever a sleeper coach of this type meets an accident, it becomes a completely combustible material. Not denying the fact that there is a negligence of the lorry driver, but finally what happened, as we saw in the accident which was near Kurnool, the whole bus went into flames. So primarily my understanding is that it is a moving mass cremation platform which is ready to be lit at any point in time. If all the authorities, all the enforcement agencies treat it as a simple accident and that emergency services were rushed and the injured were taken to the hospital and ex gratia payments were announced, and that is the nature of toolkit or the crisis management which we are handling, I think we are in for a very, very serious critical times where emergency management and night sleeper buses should be something which is like a moving coffin. Now let's come to the crux of the matter. The crux of the matter we have been seeing over and over again, the standards in the US. So US has standards, we call it as FMVSS 302. This is regarding the combustible material, which clearly says that the material on the bus should burn no faster than more than 1.102 mm per minute, which means the fire will not spread. Here, as the fire starts, the whole thing is up into flames. I was just watching the video. It is just unimaginable to have a nature of that sort of a fire, even in wildfires in the forest, which primarily means that whatever is used for creation, the development of that bodybuilding is extremely combustible. That's point number one. Point number two is whenever crashes of this nature happens, there is a fuel safety mechanism which has to be there, and that is again as per the FMVSS 301 of the US. We don't follow any of these. These buses don't run either in Europe or they don't run in the US. I think Europe, I was checking while I was getting ready for your conversation, only Twiliner between Zurich and Amsterdam. That's the only place where it runs, where it is 21-seater and full flat, I think business type of a seat as we find in the aircraft. So this is as part, we can get into the design, we can get into it. This morning, couple of experts were talking about that single entry exit is also not there. Primarily for the reason that you're coming from the driver's side, and if somebody is sleeping inside the driver's cabin, you just cannot go out, which means primarily where you are mandated to dive, and all the regulatory authorities combined, they are trying to give a feeling that this is an accident. Everybody is aware of it. There is a very clear-cut regulatory, governmental, private organizations, you can call it a cartel, you can call it a norm, where everything is accepted and everything is pushed through for crash commercialization and making of a fast buck. If you want to get into the details of every part of it, if you want to get into the details of every part of it, I'm ready to get into every...
Absolutely, because Sanjay Sai, at the end of the day, these fatal crashes are becoming only too common. What sort of changes are needed to combat driver fatigue as well? Also, which needs to be looked at. Also, Sanjay Sahai, this bus also just had one entry exit point. Surely there need to be more emergency provisions also put into these coaches.
See, there are no emergency provisions in the bus. The bus is created in a manner to carry maximum number of passengers with the shortest possible investment. If the same Volvo is given to the Volvo company to create the body over the chassis which comes from Volvo, they will refuse to create that sort of a body. While talking about the driver's fatigue, very recently we have seen in a different transportation sector, and that is in the aviation, what happened to Indigo and what is the nature of regulatory control which government of India was trying to bring. And the way decided that they had to basically retract. They were absolutely left with nothing because the whole Indian skies or the Indian aviation was put into nature where it was a crisis which became unmanageable. Now, when we are talking about the driver's fatigue, now who is bothered about the driver's fatigue? It has to be the regulatory agencies, the people who are turning their buses into moving infernos where will not be the people who will think of driver's fatigue. Then how do you control the how do you control in a way, how do you monitor and supervise? What systems do we have? Technology today is capable enough to literally monitor every single driver on every single sleeper bus of this nature across the country in a centralized manner or in a decentralized manner, whichever way you want. Because these are the same bus agencies who are running their GPS systems, who are running second to second movement of the bus. But when it comes to the driver part of it, if you just put the name of the driver and which bus he is running, I think the whole thing will get sorted out. But we don't have any guidelines. We don't have any regulations as to a driver can run a vehicle for how many hours, what is the nature of it. I don't think we have given it a thought. We have not given a thought about the condition, physical, mental condition and the fatigue. It's not only the fatigue part. It's the physical condition, the mental condition, and I can lay a bet that if you have a eye test of all drivers running these buses, at least you will find couple of them, I fear might be much more, who will not be having their correct vision also. So this is where we stand. There are systems established globally. We just need to follow. We have been basically tweaking with every single law. Most of the laws come from outside, whether it is the law or any other law. Most of it is a variety of other things because we have to fall in line with the international guidelines, international understanding, say World Road Congress. So all those, but the point is, are we enforcing them? In a place like Bangalore, we have dividers of 50 types.
Yes.
What BBMP wants in whichever place, whichever concrete contractor in whichever manner. If you want, we can write a blueprint. If you want the civil society to stand up and dictate to the powers that be, that can also be done.
Okay.
But as far as this particular setup is concerned, it is a complete collusion for monetary gains, crash monetary gains.
Okay. Sanjay, thank you for joining us with your perspective
Thank you,
on this segment.